Welcome to Shore Perspectives, a community feature of WESR Radio, highlighting the spirit of the shore from those who call it home.
My name is Gina Crockett, and I've been the coordinator for House Ministries on the Eastern Shore of Virginia for 15 years. And in October of this year, I will be retiring. In the early 80s, there was a couple ladies that were working in ministry in their church, and they saw that there was a need. The poverty on the Eastern Shore was growing. There was a need for people to get extra food, clothes, furniture, other needs. Later, a few months later, they realized that there was a growing increase in poverty on the Eastern Shore with people being homeless. There was a homeless issue. And so these two ladies together worked diligently to raise funds. They applied for the 501c3 status, and they were granted that in October of 1985. The ministry began passing out food and clothes from the back of a truck. And so soon after that, the ladies that were working in this ministry through church with others, encouraging them and supporting what they were doing, they saw that there was a need for a shelter. And so I think it was maybe 1980, maybe the end of 85 or 86, they rented one of the homes in Kelley for the need of the homeless. And they rented that, so they didn't own it. With the homeless shelter in 1990, I believe it was, both of the homes in Kelley were purchased. So then we could have one for men and one for women and children. So yeah, that was in 1990. In 2000 is when the ministry realized that there were so many donations of clothes, furniture, and the list goes on, donated to the ministry that they almost couldn't keep up with it. So that's when they started a thrift store in one of the homes in Kelley. And they did that, I think, for several years. And they would actually open it for business. Customers would come in and shop. And then they saw that, this could be a business. So that's when they purchased the building that they have as the thrift store, and then the garage, which is right next door, is used as a furniture store. So they opened that in 2000, and right off that was successful, the thrift store. Then I came along in 2006, and then I saw the need for a furniture store because the furniture was overwhelming. We only have a limited amount of space in our sheds. And we would donate what we could, but we saw we were getting above and beyond, and that maybe that may be a good venture for the ministry. So we opened Furniture Store 1, as we call it now, which is the old garage, in 2010, and that just took off. So that was somewhat like Furniture Store / some thrift store items, dishes, etc. In 2018, I believe it was, as when we opened the Four Corners store. Rick Hall graciously allowed us to use that space. He saw we had the need, he had the space, and so he allowed us to work out of that store, and that has also been a success. We have a Blue Crow booth, number 310, down in Painter at the Blue Crow building. So, that's something else that we do, and we have a girl that works that for us, and so that's pretty successful, especially during warm weather. As we all know, during this pandemic, there's many people that have become maybe somewhat paranoid over the whole situation. So they, stay home rather than go into the business. So they're avoiding going out in public, hardly at all. And I find that there are more people depressed now than I have ever seen in my life. And I would say that most people feel that same way. We pass food bags out, and some of the people, even though they know we're doing a good deed, it's kind of like they peek out of the door and they look and say, who is this? And they're hesitant to even open their door just because that's the way, the last year, it's what we've been going through. Some people are depressed. Some people have disabilities and can no longer work, but it takes years before they even realize perhaps maybe they do have a disability and should go to that direction. And in the meantime, they will just stay anywhere. Some people stay in their cars. Some people will stay in tents. Some will sleep on a relative or friend's sofa and then they leave there and they will go somewhere else. And this goes on for years before they deal with their real issue. And children, are kind of being tossed back and forth as well. A lot of the local agencies will help, with motel stay or even apartments. We take many families in during the year to our shelter. We refer men and women for rehab. I feel that addictions have gotten worse since all the pandemic. So therefore, that doesn't help the homeless situation. There hasn't been that many people come to us for help, but recently we have helped several get into programs. There's the ex-offenders when, they are released from jail. Basically, sometimes they're just, standing almost on a doorstep and with nowhere to go. Sometimes we're able to help them. If they have a crime, we have rules and there are certain crimes if, they've been involved with, we couldn't take them into the shelter, but we always will find a place for them somewhere. Some of the families struggle with being abused, some women, and I'm sure probably men as well. And so then there's, families that have to leave their home, children, for that reason. And they will come looking for shelter or they'll go to domestic violence. Occasionally we will work with an undocumented individual. And so sometimes they would rather stay where they are and we'll help them at a distance. And sometimes they will come and stay with us. Many of the homeless people you don't see because they're staying with friends or family. So I don't know if depression plays into all that. I'm not quite sure. I do know that there's a lot of homeless people that struggles with many things. The food and clothes was the first thing that the ladies that began this ministry years ago, they saw the need of, and they were passing out clothes and food. And today we do the same. So what we do is the extra food that comes in, there may be a funeral that has a lot of food left. There may be a big meal like Thanksgiving dinner, and Lighthouse will take it. And sure we will, because we always find someone that needs it, no matter what is brought to us. Let me say almost everything. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't know how it was all going to work, but I know if there's food to be passed out, there's someone that needs it. And so we go to Senior Village. We have been up in Accomack Manor. We've been up there before. We go to several trailer parks. We're working with another one to see if we could get into their trailer park to pass these bags. We go through neighborhoods in Anancock at some of the housing, other families that we know could use it. So so that's been good. That's been a good ministry this early spring. Some weeks with that, if there's like a fog day and then a closing, we will end up sometimes with 180 bags in one day. So that's quite interesting in how we pass all of that. But we do. Some weeks, that means that we will have as many as 300 bags of food to pass out. This one guy that came to the ministry was he was maybe here 2008. He came to us and right away I saw that he needed to go to rehab. So he went to rehab and I think maybe he was asked to leave one program. So then he went to Teen Challenge. And he was there for like a year. And after that, he came to live with us and he did well. I think maybe he fell by the wayside after that because, of course, you have to surround yourself with new places, new jobs, new people, and all of that and avoid the places, people and things that, drew you into that lifestyle anyway. So we were all wondering, I had numerous people say, gee, what happened to this guy? And I said, no, I've wondered. Well, it wasn't several short months later that he called me on the phone and said, I just want to let you know, Gina, he said, I got married a few months ago. We're in church. I'm doing great. He said, my heart is in bad condition. He said, to God be the glory. He said that I'm alive. He said, and I'm happy. So I was able to report to those people that asked about him. And so I wonder, what's going on with him now, because I have tried to call him. Various families that come to us will return again. And if we had a good experience and not a nightmare situation, we'll definitely take them back in, because I know that through my life, I've had more than one chance or two, at certain times. We took this family in, and I know recently this lady just kind of struggled, just was kind of poor because of the marriage failed. And then she's got children to support. And she called me recently and said, I want to help you. I have a donation to give to the ministry. The ministry was good to me. And I said, okay, we'll work it out. And she has left the area, so she doesn't live here anymore. And I met up with her, and I met her up in Maryland. And she just gave me this donation. She said, God told me to give this to you. And so it just blessed my heart, because I know, because the first thing I say is, I don't want to mess up her blessing, but I said, are you sure that you're not going to need this and you can afford it? And so she said, no, absolutely. God wanted me to give it to you. So here it is for the ministry. First of all, when your heart is in this work and it's what you do for a living, it doesn't leave when you retire. So there's no doubt in my mind, I will be serving somewhere. But I think most of all, the faces of the children, I just pray for them that they were able to, have a normal life, and that they were cared for and protected and all of those things. It would be the children I think of more. I see faces constantly of children. So that's my prayer. I pray every day for children. I've seen so many people that came through the ministry and that left. And, I would think, I just, I couldn't help them. And I felt bad about that. But then they would come back again. So what I learned is each time God brought them back to me, whether it was because they need a box of food or they need gifts for their children on Christmas, that as long as we pray for them, we need to hold on to hope. And there is hope for every individual. And there have been numerous cases, even more than the, two that I shared, where I see that people change. This one guy is going to take us in a little bit of a different direction, I guess. He was here, and he had a tendency of going off to family reunions or whatever, and I hope he's listening. And so he would go for a family reunion for like 3 days, and he would stay like 5 days. And he would call me and say, oh, you know what? I'm running into my cousins, and he would stay like 7 days. So this one day, he was a sweetheart, full of personality. I liked him. He was a good worker. He was a keeper. But when he came back, I said, I've got to test you. And I did, and he was positive. So I had to ask him to leave. And I would say, if someone asked him, who was one of your best buddies apart from the family? And he'd say Gina Crockett. And I would say the same about him. So yeah, so it's almost like a lot of them that we even have to ask to leave will become good friends later. And we don't stop helping them or praying for them.
For Shore Perspectives and WESR Radio, I'm Kelley Gaskell.